Competitive EDH is often considered an oxymoron. That is when two words contradict each other but still manage to form a coherent phrase. For example, how can competitive EDH exist? EDH is often thought to be a casual format where it doesn't really matter that much if you win, right? Well, yes and no. While sure, the majority of players play EDH casually, there's an increasingly growing crowd that play to win. They try to enact a linear, mostly infinite combo-based game plan because it's really hard to kill an entire pod with traditional methods. Regarding these infinite combos, there are plenty to choose from. Due to the basically indefinitely deep card pool in EDH, you can literally use every single card in the game minus 44 specific cards. Because of this, you face weird and wonky card interactions all over the place. From combos that give you infinite mana like Basalt Monolith plus Power Artifact, to combos that involve cards that say you win the game, like Demonic Consultation plus Thassa's Oracle. cEDH is full of combos that make you win in the non-traditional way. Fruit Chain is one of those cards that just make a cEDH player's heart drop as soon as you announce you're putting it on the stack. So, how did this all get started, you may ask? Let's find out. Fruit Chain is a card that came out in Mercadian Masks block. It's a card where you can exile one of your creatures on the battlefield to get its CMC +1 but only to cast creature spells. While at first this seems weak, this card has mainly been used for one of those combos we were just talking about. While for most of its history, it was just that. However, Magic's catalog of cards kept growing, so were the ways to abuse this card. Did you know that once upon a time, the Mythic Rare slot in Magic was used to mainly explore cool design space rather than just print cards that are blatantly more powerful than other cards in the set? That brings me to a set called Avacyn Restored. It's the third set in the Fabled Innistrad block and is the home to the first combo piece and the card that got the Fruit Chain hit the ground running, Mist Hollow Griffin. You may be asking, why is this crappy card a mythic? It's just a 3/3 flyer for 4 mana that you can cast from exile. Well, up until relatively recently, the exile zone was considered a special zone that couldn't really be interacted with. If it was sent to the exile zone, it was gone. Early text in Magic said to remove it from the game, and that's pretty much what it meant. If you were playing Kitchen Table Magic and someone used Swords to Plowshares on one of your creatures, it wouldn't be entirely inappropriate to just throw that creature across the room. That's what remove from the game meant. While sure, Time Spiral and Future Sight had a couple of goodies that interacted with the exile zone, that was a block that was meant to break the rules of Magic. I mean, nobody ever thought there would be a white force spike, but the meme is here and alive. So that brings us to Mist Hollow Griffin. This effect was in completely new territory for everyone playing at the time. I wasn't playing back then, so I don't know how people reacted when it was spoiled, but there may have been someone who looked at the odd enchantment from the worst block in the game and got a light bulb over their head. It's rather self-explanatory how this combo works. If you have Fruit Chain and a Mist Hollow Griffin on the battlefield, you can just exile the Griffin to the Fruit Chain, getting 5 blue mana. You can then cast the Griffin from exile, going down to 1 blue mana, and now you're right back to where you started, just +1 blue mana. Just get infinite blue mana and then infinite of any other colors, and then you're off to the races if you can get a creature spell to sink that mana into. I'm not too versed on the timeline of Legacy, but this is a thing in current day Legacy, if you're interested in looking into it, that is. So that was the Fruit Chain combo for a while, and by a while I mean approximately a year. In early November of 2013, that's when the second round of Commander Precon decks came out. Among these decks was a deck that went by the name Power Hungry. This deck focused on the Alara Shard of Jund, and the headlining card was a dragon that went by Prosh, Skyraider of Care. This commander goes infinite with Fruit Chain just by himself. You cast him, generating 6 zero-costing kobolds. He hits the battlefield and you exile him to Fruit Chain, making 6, let's say red. You exile 2 more kobolds to Fruit Chain for a black and a green, leaving you with 4 kobolds left. You can then recast Prosh with a red floating and get 8 more kobolds. You can repeat this process until you can basically get infinite kobolds, and you need some sort of creature outlet that can pay you off for those, like a Blood Artist, a Goblin Bushwhacker to kill your opponents. This was the dominant Fruit Chain deck for a while, but there's one thing this deck is missing. If you don't play cEDH, you may not realize how important counterspells are. While sure, you can find some in every color, the most potent non-blue counterspells being Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast, blue is obviously where most of the counterspells lie. In a format where people try to instantly win via degenerate combos, being able to interact on the stack is essential. So that brings us to the most pressing issue with Prosh Fruit Chain deck, lacking the color blue. However, up through Battle for Zendikar, there wasn't really a commander that you can win with out of the command zone with infinite creature mana, up until Oath of the Gatewatch. While Oath of the Gatewatch would bring us some giant spaghetti monsters that would terrorize Modern up until this day, and the most ubiquitous green 2-drop in Standard,
so I thought to myself, what would you get if you shuffled together the top 4 decks in Standard?
16 Sylvan Advocates?
It also brought us the brand new Fruit Chain commander, the leader of the allies himself, General Tazri. While this commander did require you to put Mist Hollow Griffin in your deck, you also get access to a multitude of stack-based interaction in the form of blue counterspells. Your commander also lets you win out of the command zone. Once you assemble Mist Hollow Griffin and Fruit Chain, you get infinite creature mana. Now that you have that, you cast your commander out of your command zone and grab either Hagra Diabolist or Kalastria Healer and cast one of them. From there on, you can infinitely cast your commander and then send it back to the command zone with food chain to trigger the one you just got to kill your opponents. This was the standard food chain deck for a while. However, there was one big issue with the deck. It wants you to play bad cards. Commanders don't want you to play cards that you don't want to draw and that are only good for a combo outlet are considered dead cards in the deck, and having any card you don't want to draw is considered not good for the deck. However, people thought that having blue in the deck greatly outweighed the cost of having a couple dead cards, so Tajri was the standard food chain deck from there on out. In July 2016, WotC released the second and the final set in the second block of Innistrad. It seems almost comical that in the last set of every Innistrad block to date, there's a card that goes infinite with food chain. First it was Mist Hollow Griffin, this time it's a card that goes by Eternal Scourge. While its Cast from Exile ability was mainly meant to be used in conjunction with its second ability, you can still cast this card from exile nonetheless. This gives non-proc food chain players redundancy in one area of the combo. This also means that you're no longer locked into green and blue commanders for the food chain combo. You can now branch out into any commander that has green in its color identity. Let's fast forward to April 2018. This is when the set Dominaria came out. Behind the new most powerful planeswalker in the game and a triple red card that wrecked standard for the remainder of the season, there was a little callback to an old card from the set that birthed food chain itself. A new version of Squee in the form of Squee the Immortal. This callback to the famous goblin had the very important text of "can be cast from exile," which meant that it was another card that goes infinite with food chain. At this point, it's 3 cards that go infinite with food chain, and we're now just looking for a better commander other than the exhausted General Tajri. About 1 year after Squee's release into the world, War of the Spark follows suit. This very pushed set brought cEDH a couple of gems. The first one is Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. For cEDH, this does what Labman did, but better. If you cast a Demonic Consultation in response to his uptick, naming something not in your deck, you should just win on the spot. The second is a pair of uncommon 3-mana Planeswalkers, Nurse at Parta Avails and Ashiok Dreamrender. While Planeswalkers aren't normally that good in cEDH due to having to protect them, these act as both stacks pieces and, in Nurse's case, a pair of impulses. However, these cards aren't what excited the food chain community. That was Niv Mizzet Reborn. If you get infinite food chain mana, you can cast Niv Mizzet repeatedly until you hit one of a multitude of multicolored creatures that can make you win off of infinite food chain mana. What makes this better than Tajri is that you can actually cast Niv to get some card advantage and grab some great multicolored spells in the mid game if you need some more fuel. This gives you an edge in that you might actually want to cast your commander if you aren't winning, unlike General Tajri. However, the new king of food chain would soon be dethroned within mere months. With the release of Modern Horizons, there were plenty of new cards that saw a ton of play in multiple formats, some being so powerful they even had to be banned. However, there was one card that stood out as possibly the best food chain commander to date, the first Sliver. The important part of this card isn't that it gives all your slivers Cascade, it's that it has Cascade itself. That means that this commander lets you expand from casting just creature spells to any spells in your deck off of food chain mana. Given that, now you can cast every spell in your deck with CMC 4 or less. You can also infinitely loop your library with the Time Twister and another recursion spell to recur the Time Twister. Now that you can cast your entire library, you can cast something like an Extract or Praetor's Grasp infinite times to exile each opponent's library, or you can just assemble another combo like the aforementioned Jace and Demonic Consultation combo. While this is considered the best 5-color food chain commander to date, there's actually one other contender for the current best food chain commander, and it actually goes all the way back to food chain's Jund roots. Yep, I'm talking about the new top Jund dragon, Korvold Fakehurst King. If you're looking at the top food chain decks nowadays, you pretty much have 2 options. You have the first Sliver food chain and Korvold food chain. Between the two, Korvold also has a very potent backup combo of Darkside Extortionist plus Temur Sabertooth. If your opponents have a total of 5 or more artifacts and or enchantments, you can get infinite treasures and draw your deck via Korvold as well as have infinite mana. Korvold is also much more synergistic with the commander and the deck feels coherent, unlike the first Sliver where the commander is just there to win with. Korvold also has some nice synergies with like the aforementioned Darkside Extortionist, as well as being able to get some more gas from otherwise mundane game actions like cracking a fetch land. All in all, those are the 2 most prominent food chain decks, and choosing between the 2 is mainly dependent on your playstyle, whether you like counterspells more or you like your decks being highly synergistic with your commander. In conclusion, Food Chain is one hell of a Magic card, and in my opinion is a great card to look at the history of and all of the decks that it's made previously. What do you think? Do you have a favorite iteration of the deck? Do you play Food Chain like I do? I know which one's my favorite. If you enjoyed, be sure to smack a like on this video and subscribe if you haven't yet. If you want to see me do more videos like this, just leave a comment down below saying, hey, you like this style and you want to see me do more deep dives on history of some cards, or just look into some cards in general. As always, all of the social medias are in the description, as well as right here, Twitch, Twitter, and thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.